This module rocks, or rather, it's about rocks. But you may be surprised to know what rocks really are and how they can be used, created, concreted, and recycled. In module TwXRB, we look at metal waste and metal recycling, and arguably rocks most often contain metal. In fact, most metal mining involves breaking up rocks and extracting the ores found within. So what is it that makes rocks rock? And besides purifying the metals often contained within rocks and recycling that, what do we use rocks for, and what does rock recycling look like? Rocks, it turns out, are actually the source of almost everything inorganic we use to build and run our civilization. Where primitive humans and modern hunter-gatherers made or make almost everything out of the living world, with the exception of a few stone tools and obsidian or volcanic glass blades, civilization was about mining rocks and refining what was found within. To explore rock recycling, we need to become familiar with the concept of aggregates and metalloids. Let's start with aggregates. Wiki tells us that they are, quote, a broad category of coarse to medium-grained particulate materials that are used in construction, including sand, gravel, crushed stone, slag, recycled concrete, and geosynthetic aggregates. And they tell us, quote, aggregates are the most mined materials in the world. Now, because they are the most mined materials on Earth, and are the primary materials used in construction, creating our built environment, they have an enormous environmental impact. You might wonder why we couldn't simply turn every old bridge and building and road back into a new one, and rarely have to tear up the landscape to get more. Heck, the Romans used to do exactly that, salvaging materials even from the ancient Egyptian cities and pyramids to build their own empires. And sometimes we do that. The recycling of aggregates is of paramount importance if we want to reduce our impact on the Earth. In this module, we'll explore how and when we do that. Now, metalloids, which make up the biggest percentage of our rocks, have properties in between metals and non-metals, and this is what makes them so useful. There are only 17 non-metals, so we might as well list them. The non-metals are the non-metal gases: hydrogen, helium, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon, chlorine, argon, krypton, xenon, and radon. The non-metal liquid, bromine, and the non-metal solids, carbon, phosphorus, sulfur, selenium, and iodine. All can be found in rocks, with oxygen being the most abundant, forming oxides of many of the metals. Now, there are too many metals to list right now that are also in our rocks, but iron and calcium and lead and gold and silver are good representatives and give you an idea. As for metalloids, there are only 6 elements truly classified as metalloids: boron, silicon, germanium, arsenic, antimony, and tellurium. 5 other elements, carbon, aluminum, selenium, polonium, and astatine, are sometimes classified as metalloids and sometimes not, with carbon dancing between non-metal and metalloid, and selenium, polonium, arsenic, antimony, and tellurium dancing between metal and metalloid. Now, of these, aluminum and carbon are the most abundant constituents of rocks. The thing about metalloids is that they can form alloys with metals, and in their pure state, they are in between good conductors of electricity and bad conductors of electricity. Wikipedia tells us that as a consequence, quote, most of their other physical and chemical properties are intermediate in nature. Metalloids by themselves are usually too brittle to have any structural uses, but they and their compounds are used in alloys, biological agents, catalysts, flame retardants, glasses, optical storage, and optoelectronics, pyrotechnics, semiconductors, and electronics, end quote. So once they've been mined and refined out of rocks to make all these great high-value products, does it really make sense to go back and mine them out of some distant mountain rather than take them right out of the waste stream? Of course, it's in the electronics industry that metalloids really shine. With silicon, which is the main ingredient in igneous rocks and sand, basalt is about 53% silicon dioxide, whereas granite is 73%, along with its metalloid cousin germanium being at the heart of the semiconductor revolution that has spawned computers and solar panels. Who would have thunk that 21st century technology was really just recycled rock? In this module, we look at the biogeochemical cycles that endlessly create and recycle rocks, and how we humans now create new kinds of rocks that have all sorts of useful properties, like the solar panels and semiconductors and float glass that we depend on. And may end up coming to think we haven't really left the Stone Age after all. Let's rock!